KNYA today is a brand for healthcare professionals. We do scrubs and apron, which are scientifically backed to sort of enhance their performance.
And I think there's a kind of a meaning behind by creating a category for these people. It's never been easier to start a business today, but to scale that brand at scale with the right voice of the customer and kind of the right values is very difficult. It's so cluttered.
What is it like working with your spouse?
I love it.
I think it works, right? Because I think Vanshika and I have very complementary skill sets. Everybody is looking at what Indian entrepreneurs are doing in the consumer brand space.
If it's not going to give you good sleep, don't do it.
Oh, I got a great valuation, this term sheet. I'm just going to sign it. I'll be like, no. Please read the term sheet. Valuation is just like one out of the 50 or 100 things that are written on that.
Index funds can be a great starting point because they're
Super.
basically no-brainers.
Your role is, in its core, is being selfless.
The importance of financial freedom from day one. Always be ready for that.
Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Happy Hour with FinCocktail. Today we have with us Vanshika and Abhijeet Kaji. Vanshika is a fourth generation textile entrepreneur and Abhijeet has some experience in private equity and is an engineer. And together they've co-founded KNYA. Hi guys, thanks for being here. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much for having us. We are very excited to be here.
So KNYA, I think it's a really cool name. How did the name come up and what is it that you guys exactly do at KNYA?
So KNYA is basically derived from the Sanskrit word Panchakanya, which basically represents a group of 5 goddesses. All of them stand for certain virtues which we feel resonate very well with healthcare professionals. And that's where the name sort of came by. Of course, it's with an A, and we just cut down the A to sort of make it a bit more modern in its appeal. It was very random how it came by, to be honest. I was in college and we had to do a final year project which was launching our own brand, and that's why the name sort of came by when we actually didn't even know that we were going to target the healthcare professionals. And it just sounded cool without an A, and we went by it. KNYA today is a brand for healthcare professionals. We do scrubs and apron, which are scientifically backed to sort of enhance their performance.
Oh, okay, interesting. So how did you guys notice this market gap and when is it that you guys decided to start KNYA?
Yeah, so Niyati, there are roughly a crore medical professionals in this country, mixed with doctors, nurses, technicians, physiotherapists, occupational therapists across the board, right? And there are 2 pieces of statistic that really kind of drove us to this category. Vanshika comes with a deep background in textiles, right? And I'm a little bit of a generalist, right? Finance, engineering, consulting. So I could basically be fit in some anywhere, right? So we could have honestly picked any kind of category to do apparel with, right? And we kind of wanted to do a category which was serving a particular segment of the market, right? And we feel that medical professionals are the most underserved profession out there. 2 pieces of statistic. One, 75% of doctors get attacked at least once in their professional life, right? So imagine if you and I go to work and like 3 out of 4 of us just get attacked every single time, at least once.
That's a
right?
large
That's a
number.
very large number, right? And that number is not going down anywhere. In fact, in tier 3 cities, it's even larger, right? And I'll get to why as well. And one more statistic was that the life expectancy of medical professionals is 59. Versus the life expectancy of non-doctors per se is 71. So these 2 pieces of statistics made us realize that this profession is very underserved, misunderstood, and I think there's a kind of a meaning behind by creating a category for these people, right? So in KNYA, yes, in essence, we're a brand that makes like high-performing apparel, scrubs and aprons, but our true mission is to kind of celebrate these individuals who go in every day, spend 16 to 18 to 20 hours a day doing some of the most difficult tasks out there and arguably the most important as well, right? Saving lives. So that's how it came about. We started the brand a couple of years back. It's been a little bit more than 2 years. So it's some sense around COVID, right? I think COVID was, like many people across the world, was a reflecting point for a lot of us, right? And particularly for Vanshika and me, when we kind of went back to the drawing board, trying to ask ourselves, what do we really want to do in our life? What really matters to us most and why? and I was back in private equity back then. Vanshika was yet an entrepreneur, and we were asked ourselves some tough questions, and we realized that I think creating a brand here could be pretty unique, right? And why scrubs? I think it's one is the thought and the process behind kind of giving back to medical professionals, but we also studied the market, right? I personally have spoken to like thousands of purchase people, medical professionals, doctors, nurses, medical students. Vanshika has done the same, right? And through these conversations, we kind of realized that there's a potential to kind of create a brand here at scale in India. And it's been a little bit more than 2 years, and it's been a super fun ride with many, many ups, but even more downs.
Yeah.
And but being a net positive, we've marched forward, and I think in some sense been able to create some brand which medical professionals resonate with.
Right. Interesting. So you mentioned the ups and downs of this journey, and like any business that you start, there's always going to be some challenges that you face, especially when you're trying to set up in the initial few years.
Yeah.
So can you tell us something about a few challenges that you guys have faced and overcome in the past few years?
So many.
So I think, honestly, I would say there's been a problem, or we face problems across almost every vertical in the business,
Sure.
right? And I think it starts from, I think, building a team. I would say, which is the essence of what we are doing, right? I think we always say this at KNYA, right? It's first team members, then it's customers, then it's investors, and then it's the rest, right? The team is first. We are around almost 100 people now, right? Across kind of people who work in office and outside office. And I think hiring talent, mentoring them, retaining them, kind of aligning them on our goals, I would say is the toughest thing we do every day till date, right? And I think literally while driving here, we were just discussing other people problem, right? And I think it's something ingrained in kind of growing a brand, right? And I think particularly the category that we are in, which is primarily insurgent brands or new age brands, we are traditionally an online brand, right? But there's also a bit of human touch with regard to customer service, kind of maybe we have stores as well, so kind of how we interact with our customers. We often remind ourselves that our kind of customers are the busiest people in the world, right? They are doctors, nurses. They don't have time to kind of question on where their order is or why it wasn't delivered, right? So in some sense, we kind of preserve their time, right? So I think creating that culture around that is super hard, but something that we find also in some sense has the greatest ROI, right? Investing in people, creating a very holistic culture, we feel kind of pays a lot of dividends in the long run, and we've seen this in our journey,
Sure.
right? Another kind of area that we feel that there have been issues have been operations, right? I think with scale, being a younger company, when you're starting in a kind of a smaller kind of setup to when you grow, which we've fortunately seen in the last 2 years, managing that scale, we've seen that every couple of months, once you grow, things break down,
Yeah.
right? It's some sense, yes, we're getting better at kind of planning like 2 steps away, whether it's hiring more people or kind of building more systems, but we're learning on the go as well.
Yeah.
Right. And I think these are a couple of areas where I feel that there's scope for improvement for us. But I think we've just learned a bunch, right? I think with every kind of down, there's like 5 areas that we can learn and grow.
Yeah.
And it's been a fun ride. Yeah. Honestly, it's been a super fun ride. And I think any given day I would take this job. I've enjoyed it a lot more than being an investor or being like, on the corporate side of things than being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Great. That's nice to hear. So I do believe that you guys have managed to scale up KNYA in a way that now you all are supplying to over 600 cities and to over 500 medical institutions. So how have you all managed to do this in such a short span of time?
So I think there are a couple of things, right? I think we kind of were very clear when we got into KNYA what kind of our roles and responsibilities were, right? We've kind of divided the responsibilities very clearly. Vanshika understands product, she understands brand, I think better than anybody else, right? At least that I've worked with, right? So she takes care of that. I kind of take care of the rest, which is more of the kind of, I would say, the finance, the accounting, the hiring, kind of a little bit of strategy as well, right? So I would say it's kind of very fair, kind of clear of what our core competency is and kind of stick to that.
Sure.
Right, that's one. I think second is, I think the world that we live in, I think timing is everything, right? We, at least when I was an investor, we discuss this a lot, right? You can have an average entrepreneur, but a great market timing, the market will always win, right? Or you can have an average market timing of phenomenal entrepreneurs, but the market will always win,
Correct.
right? So I think market timing is everything,
Yeah.
Right, the most successful businesses, right in India, whether you look at the likes of Geo or across the board, right, if timing has been everything, right? So I think in some sense timing and market is very important, right? I wouldn't want to give Vanshika and me credit. Yes, we've done some things right in kind of being able to scale this brand, but I think a lot has to do with the market and the timing.
Also, when we were getting into it, we sort of knew from day one that this is going to be a category creation play. Because the norm before we sort of started, and it still is, because we haven't captured the entire market, of course, was going to your local tailor and sort of getting it done, right? To sort of change that mindset and to be like, hey, I have a product which you don't even know how much is going to enhance your performance. It's what you want. It's better than what you want. It's the fabric that you need, the pockets that you need. It has the functionality. It's at the same price point what you would pay to your local tailor, and it's way more convenient because it's coming to your doorstep. So to sort of have that first mover advantage, as Abhijeet said, because of the timing, and second, I think is also the product, right? I think we have been able to create a phenomenal product, which has really helped, because I think the medical professionals understood the need for it, because they can't get it from a local tailor.
Okay.
That consistency is never going to be there, and the sort of personalization they were looking at in aspect of like the embroidery and stuff like that with their hospital logo or their name, etc. We do that digitally through our website, so it's sort of a mix of best of both worlds, and I think that has really played an important part in sort of
Right.
facing that growth.
To throw a buzzword, right? I think product market fit, right? I think it takes time to come, but once it comes, you kind of know it, right? And I think it came by with thousands of conversations to understand what was really required, right? And I think once we kind of realized that what was the need of the hour, which were like performance apparel at the right price, the right quality, with the right delivery time. And once we were able to get kind of all those aspects, it didn't happen overnight. It was like a little bit of iterations here and there. And we kind of realized that to create the perfect product with the perfect fitting, right, and the perfect kind of brand stance, what do we stand for as a brand? What are our values, right? What do we really care for? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
I think that really helped. And I think as we say this, right, I think it's never been easier to start a business today, but it's never been harder to scale a brand.
Yeah.
Right. So starting businesses today, very easy, right? I think just list the business, list on Amazon, go for it, right? But to scale that brand at scale with the right voice of the customer and kind of the right values is very difficult. It's so cluttered today. We go to Instagram, there are like hundreds of brands there, right? But if you kind of are not authentic to what you're building, you won't be able to do it, right? So we, like many other scale brands, have been able to leverage a lot of the technology out there, right? The logistics SaaS products out there. Today at KNYA, right, we're not a technology company. We use almost 50 software products.
Wow.
Right? 45 to 50 software products. And I think they're easily available. They're off the rack. Just kind of integrated, train the team and kind of build efficiencies.
Yeah.
Right? And I think, so I think it's a mix of kind of the product focus that Vanshika brings, right? Who really understands the nuances of product development, right? Like Vanshika has done these, like we have one scrub called the 10 pocket scrub. Right? It didn't exist. Like 10 pockets in a scrub. You can literally have like, you don't need a bag. You can just like put, because surgeons are so busy, right? They're just running from one room to the surgery room, right? So I think the mix of the product, the focus that Vanshika's brought in, plus leveraging a lot of kind of the tools that are available in the ecosystem to kind of build a functioning organization.
Nice. So you spoke about, your organizational values and your brand values and stuff like that. And I know that sustainability is important to you all. So how do you sort of imbibe that in your products and your services?
So our EcoFlex range, which honestly I think are the best scrubs out there, I'm very, very proud of that innovation that we did at KNYA, are 100% sustainable. They're made of recycled PET bottles found in the ocean. It is also traceable by global recycling standards by GRS. So it comes with a certificate to sort of to authenticate that. To us, I think it was a very important move. Of course, it is a great fabric. It really fits all of our needs. But to find one which is also sustainable took that extra development. And I'm glad that we did that because we as a brand really believe in that. And I think there has to be a starting point.
Yeah. Interesting. So you keep mentioning that your scrubs are really functional and it's something that doctors didn't even know that they need. So can you like tell us a few distinguishing like sort of factors or like features of your scrubs that make them so interesting?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, like our EcoFlex scrubs, they have 4-way stretch. They stretch vertically and horizontally, just
Okay.
like our track pants do when we
Yeah.
go to the gym. Healthcare professionals are on the go, moving 24/7 while they're in the hospital, right? From OPD to OT, etc. So they need that sort of stretch to
Comfort
sort of
and stretch.
Yeah, exactly. So it's 4-way stretch. It's anti-wrinkle. So at the end of the day, they're not looking all worn out and crumpled. It's antimicrobial. So when you sweat in it, it's not like smelling.
Okay.
The sweat just evaporates off the product. And other than that, I think we paid a lot of attention in fit. I think fit was something which was really, really missing, because the usual norm was going to a local tailor, or one of these hospitals would just sort of get a local tailor to sort of sit in the hospital, and one by one everyone would go and just get their scrubs. So I think fit is something which was missing, and I think a fit can, just getting the fit right sort of changes the entire way you look. So fit is something we rework
So you have
on
like
even today.
standardized sizes, or
We have
like
standardized sizes, but we have from extra small to 4XL.
okay,
We're also launching a 5XL soon. So we really believe in the diversity
inclusivity
and
in
inclusivity.
sizes, yeah.
And you can also pick a different size top and a different size bottom, which was never done by any brand in India.
Ah, that's interesting.
And it was actually a huge operational challenge to sort of figure that one out,
Yeah.
because we realized that any human body can't be a small in the top and small at the bottom.
Absolutely.
It varies. So to sort of give that flexibility is very important. So I think these are a couple of main pointers that we feel we really incorporated to get the product right. The fabric, honestly, a lot of research goes into it. It's not just a fabric you buy from a local market and get it done. It's our own recipe.
Okay.
It's a proprietary fabric,
Okay.
which we've researched, which we've created over many, many years now. So yeah, it's
Very interesting. So on a lighter note, what is it like working with your spouse?
I love it.
No, it's
So cute.
I
Love
think
it.
it totally made sense, right? I think besides there being so many successful brands that have been built by husband wife,
Yeah.
I think it works, right? Because I think Vanshika and I have very complementary skill sets. I'm clearly left brain. She's clearly right brain. We enjoy different things. I do not enjoy what she does. In fact, I don't understand it. I think the same, right? So I think it really works for us.
Yeah.
And I think because we are parents as well, new parents, I think it helps, right? Because I think you can divide time effectively. There's that sense of trust is there, right? That if she's going home early, she's going there to be there for the kids.
Yeah.
Right, and I think at business school, right, the number one thing they said in like the entrepreneurial class I took was that number one reason why businesses fail, right, is because of founder conflict. Right, it's the number one reason, right? And I think the husband wife businesses hopefully takes that trust deficit out of the equation, right? And especially these early 30s, late 20s are very difficult times, right? Parents are growing a little older, you have kids,
Yeah.
friends are going through their own kind of phases, and I think times like this, it's kind of the spouse, the partner relationship becomes, I think, very, very critical.
Absolutely.
Right, and I think that stability is super important, and I think if you can create that trust at work and then hopefully bring that at home as well, it kind of, I think, can be a great leverage to kind of your maybe late 30s, early 40s. Right, and I think it's worked for us, and I think we've been able to kind of leverage it in many big ways, and I think very lucky to be on this part with Vanshika.
But I also feel like it's not for everyone or not for every couple. It really depends. And I think it's a lot of work which needs to be done internally to make it work. Right? I think demarcation in terms of work, in terms of boundaries need to be set. We are working like 24/7, right? We'll be like feeding our kids and at the same time talking about a new hire. Or,
Yeah.
work that's left over, or like we'll be in the car on our way to office and making lists of things to do for each other.
Yeah.
So I think you're 24/7 working, which is sometimes not the best thing. Most of the times not the best thing. But sometimes it works for us. I don't know if it works for everyone. It really does work for us. Also, we complement each other's.
Yeah. And there's nothing like switching off, right? People are like, oh, you go home at dinner table, do not talk about work.
That's not possible.
Then you're not working.
when you're-
There's no nothing like success.
Yeah.
There's nothing like success.
Yeah.
It's just reality, right? We are like, we're recently watching this Panchayat TV show, right? And like before putting it off, I'll just remember something. I'll be like, Vanshika, like, you know what, I forgot this. And like the early days, we would like try to like
Stop that
yeah, but it doesn't
conversation.
work. It just
Yeah.
goes on because the other person's gonna have it in their mind.
Yeah,
Then kind
yeah.
of they will
They're
sleep
sleeping
with,
over
they
it
will
with
sleep
that
with
thought.
it. So we discuss it. We kind of are always working, but are also never working. It's kind of, and we live with it. We enjoy it. It's the chaos that we live with, and we thrive in now. It's just that we've
Good.
embraced it now.
That's great as long as you enjoy it. And I do believe that, it's important to have different skill sets that are complementing each other. Like even with me and Siley, we both do very different things at work.
Yeah.
I am good with the research and the technical bit. She's good with the creative bit. And that just happens like so naturally that we're not in each other's space
Yeah,
or in each other's way. And it's smoother that way. So I feel like in any kind of like business or like a working relationship, it's important to have different skill sets that are like sort of complementary.
Yeah.
No,
Definitely.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, usually I never do podcasts and stuff. So the brand, 'cause I'm really bad at these things. But I like working quietly behind the scenes.
Yeah. I used to be one of those people. Siley was like, no, you have to put your face in front of the camera.
It takes a lot, honestly. To
It does.
put
It took me a
yourself-
long time to get comfortable
It takes a
behind
lot.
the camera.
Yeah.
In front of the camera. Sorry.
I'm a silent worker.
Yeah. Yeah.
I honestly wouldn't have come today for all of this. I never do this.
Okay, so you guys are in a D2C business. Your customers or your consumers are medical professionals. What are the challenges that come with a D2C business?
So I'll tell you, right? I think so. D2C is, I think, the buzzword, right, for the last couple of years, right? Direct to consumer.
Yeah.
And the kind of the word that we try sticking to is kind of an insurgent brand, right? Or and the reason is because I think direct to consumers per se, when you're hitting the consumer directly, yes, more often than not through our website and through our stores, we do hit the consumer directly and kind of get the feedback. But we also do sell on marketplaces and so probably sometimes direct to a hospital and maybe through other channels, right? And I think it's a phenomenal opportunity, right, for kind of entrepreneurs like ourselves and probably many entrepreneurs out there who are building consumer brands out there to provide better, more sustainable, more holistic products to consumers, right? When we grew up, right, maybe like 15, 20 years back, we can only probably remember a handful of brands, right? Traditionally owned by the same Maricos, HULs, Nestle's, right? But today, if I look in my own house, right, 50% or more brands are now being consumed by these new age brands, right? These are the ghee that my kids probably consume, right? The milk that my kids consume, right? Probably the food, a lot of the food
Peanut
that we
butter.
ate, the peanut butter, the bread, across the board are new age brands, right? And I think it's phenomenal. I'm a huge fan, and at home, per se, we are all for kind of trying new products and trusting new entrepreneurs, like people are trusting us as well, or trusted us a couple of years back, right? But to create a brand from ground up has never been harder, right? It's easy to start one, but very hard to scale one, right? There are a couple of reasons for that. I would say one, I think today, how do you reach a customer? Today, a younger brand cannot afford TV commercials, right? I think now today as a brand, little bit, we've been a couple of years into it, we are considering it maybe a very kind of subtle niche targeting on OTT. But when you just start off, you cannot afford that. It's very expensive, right? So you resort to an Instagram or like a Meta or like a Google or YouTube, right? YouTube also may be a little expensive early on for brands, right? So primarily Instagram, right? But today, I think the cost per impression or the cost per click is getting very expensive, right? It's deeply competitive. Today, if you want to launch a vitamin C serum, you search vitamin C serum on Amazon, you go to the 15th or 20th page and it'll be a phenomenal brand, right? With like 100 plus ratings at the least, right? So that tells you the competition that's available out there. But that also tells you that as entrepreneurs, you'll be more thoughtful with a better mission and be more authentic towards what you want to do, right? And today, all categories are getting disrupted, right? No incumbent is kind of comfortable, right? We often get have conversations with like some of these kind of incumbent leaders, right? We get that access because of our investor, and everybody is looking at what Indian entrepreneurs are doing in the consumer brand space, right? So I would say challenges. I think marketing, reaching the customer. Second, I think logistics in India is challenging, right? Till date today, I think addresses haven't been kind of streamlined the way they should be. There are very often you'll go to like a town, like a tier 2, tier 3 town, and they do not have proper addresses. It'll probably be like a landmark. And so I think logistics yet has some scope. The deliveries, the Blue Darts, the Shadow Faxes have done well, the Expressways, but I think there's a long way to go, right? I think that's number 2. Third is I think payment reconciliation, right? There is yet that prevailing kind of COD and RTO issues that come, RTO's return to origin, right? Where customers just place the order and there's a bit of fraud there. And so I would say those are the long tail issues. But I think on the whole, I think it comes down to the same issues that come in every business, right? Hiring, funding, ops, giving a holistic customer experience, right? And I think if you're ready for the challenge to kind of scale this, I think it's as easy as it's been 30 years back, but with probably new challenges, and some things have become easier as well. Right? And I think at every stage, right, we say this, right, we told us is that, oh, this revenue target, things will become so much easier. Oh my God, it'll be great. We crossed that. It didn't get easier. Then we again said that it crossed it didn't get easier. The problems will always remain. I think that's the biggest constant. But I think if we just be up for always problem solving, it's going to be a journey of problem solving. Right?
Also, I feel like everyone's getting more and more impatient with time, and brands like Amazon have really put us in a tough spot because they do like 24-hour delivery.
Yeah,
and
they do
like,
same-day deliveries,
it's
man.
just
That's
it's
insane.
crazy, and Zepto and Blinkit and all of that, right? That now to up your game every day to sort of be able to sort of match up to that experience is really tough.
I can give you an example, right? When we started the first year, we do these personalized embroidery on scrubs, right? A lot of doctors want their name written. Of course, they've earned the degree. You get their logo written, maybe like a Just Look Hospital or whatever, or like a Apollo Hospital, right? Or Reliance H&M. And when we first started, we would take around 15 to 16 days to dispatch because the creative need to be created and need to go to like our factory and like get the embroidery put, then the QC needs to be done, then it'll get dispatched and few days to reach them. Today, the world we live in, right? We literally looked at the data like yesterday. We dispatch it in less than 48 hours.
Wow.
Right? And I think it's because the need of
With
the
the
hour
personalization.
with the
Of the
personalization, the
logo
click
and
of a
everything.
button. So within 4.5 days, whether you're in Jammu Kashmir or whether you're on the remotest part of the country, right, personalized embroidery order will reach you. And that has been with a lot of innovation and back to the walls because the consumer demands it today, right? And now for non-personalized orders, we've also started same-day delivery across metro cities. So Bangalore and Bombay are live today, right? And hopefully we can take other cities as well, right? But that's what has happened. That's the need of the hour because today a Zepto or a Blinkit or a Swiggy will give you your bread in 3.5 minutes. So the consumer's like, okay, we want our scrub also. And I was like, okay, then, right? So I think we are just living in that world that we live in, right? And I think this as entrepreneurs, they say, right? I think innovation is the mother of necessity. Right? That's what's made us do it, and that's what's put the whole team in us. That if we don't do it today, we're not providing our consumers the service, and that's why we launch stores as well. We have 2 stores. We'll be adding another.
Nice. I didn't know that.
We have 2 stores. Two in Bombay, one in Parel, and one in Nerul.
Okay.
And both are near hospitals because very often, right, a senior doctor will be like, I have a surgery tomorrow, but I don't have scrubs to wear. I need it today. We see maximum traffic between 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. at our store, right? Because doctors are busy people. They can't come during the day.
They come after their shift.
They come after their shifts, right? So now, and both the stores have been working very well. So we're going to be adding around 10-15 stores this year now across the country.
Wow. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. So one of the challenges that you mentioned was funding, and that's the case with any kind of startup or a bootstrap company in the initial few years. How have you all managed to sort of overcome any kind of financial hurdles that you faced along the way?
So I think in the nature of the business that we're in, I think working capital is critical, right? I think it's more important, I think, in kind of consumer brands and maybe arguably more important than the rest, right? Managing the payables, managing the inventory. Luckily the business that we in inventory is relevant, right? We're not in a fashion space per se, right? And receivables also not much of a problem because we are primarily an online business, and so we kind of try to run like a negative working capital business. Right, and we are able to do that if it wasn't for the inventory part of the equation. But since we are kind of investing kind of in growth, we're like, let's stock some inventory. We don't want to go out of stock, right? We are externally backed. We've kind of raised outside capital from a fund called DSG Consumer Partners. We also have a couple of kind of healthcare focused kind of families which have invested in us, Narayana Health and Cipla. They've been great support. But I'll be honest, funding has never been a challenge for us, right? I don't want to say, kind of sound complacent here, being like, oh, it was super easy. But it's just that Vanshika and I are very aligned that we are not in this hyper scaling kind of journey. We feel that building a consumer brand takes time. Building that relationship with the consumer takes time. Yes, we want to grow, but we want to grow sustainably, right? We are profitable, right? And we plan to continue being profitable, right? I think that's the mantra that we want to kind of, kind of focus by. And we are not just like adjusted EBITDA, we are EBITDA positive, like PAT positive,
Right.
And I think that's what we want to do,
Yeah.
right? We took out external capital because we felt that initially it would take time from a brand marketing perspective and to kind of build the brand ground up, build a solid team as well, and obviously get advice from some phenomenal leaders in the industry, right? And like Dr. Devi Shetty and Samina Hamid from Cipla, right? And Viren Shetty as well. So I think, and no regrets. I think they've been phenomenal partners, and I think we're very lucky kind of to have these people on the cap table. So I think for every industry and every category it's different, right? I think I know many entrepreneurs who are kind of in some sense like couple of months away from like burning out of all cash, right? But that's not how we want to run the business. We kind of are building this for the long run. We are we try to be profitable. We don't want to be super risky. We feel that building a brand takes time to nurture like a child, right? You can't expect from a baby to a man or a woman overnight, right? It takes time, right? And I think it's been a little bit more than 2 years, and I think DSG and our investors have been great partners. They understand consumers brands very well, and they are on board with us that take your time. They are investors in Sula. Wine Sula took 15-20 years to become like the household name for wine in the country, right? And I think our goal is very simple. We want to be the generic word for scrubs in this country. People should stop using the word scrubs. People should just say Kanya, right? And like how Xerox and Colgate have done. I think that's the goal that we've set for ourselves. And until we do that, I think we know that there's a lot of time left in the journey.
And I think one question we often ask ourselves, which I think is a very underrated question, is especially before making a financial decision, is will this give me good sleep at night? Right? And if the answer is no, you have a decision right there. Right? I think mental peace is the most important thing in life. If it's not going to give you good sleep, don't do it.
Yeah, this is exactly where I come from. Where if somebody asks me about some random investment that they want to make, and I'm like, are you going to be able to sleep at night?
Yeah.
Thinking that you've done this.
Yeah.
If yes, then do it. Otherwise, it's not worth it. Don't sort of put yourself in that space where you're constantly stressing.
Because at the end of the day, what are you doing this for? You're doing it to be happy, to earn money, to serve
some
the
purpose,
industry, to have that purpose in life. And I feel like if you don't enjoy being on that journey, what's the point of it?
Absolutely.
Peace of mind.
Peace of mind above everything else.
Yeah.
True. So since you guys have managed to raise capital from a few partners, what is one piece of advice that you would give somebody in, this journey who's sort of starting out and trying to get like funding for themselves?
Yeah.
What is it that they should sort of look out for, the do's and don'ts?
Yeah, so read the shareholder agreement.
Yeah.
No, I think it's as simple as that. But I think there's so many founders I speak to, right, who are like, oh, I got a great valuation, this term sheet, I'm just going to sign it. I'll be like, no. Please read the term sheet. Valuation is just like one out of the 50 or 100 things that are written on that, right? And yes, it's the more kind of vanity metric out there, right? But I think it's not the most important metric, right? We chose the fund that kind of did not give us the highest valuation, right? We raised a second round of funding as well recently, right? From the same investors, although they were not giving us the best valuation, but because they were great partners and because they understood kind of what Vanshika and I wanted to build with KNYA, and our goals were aligned, and we found them to be very morally straight people, right? And I think I see so many nothing against investors, right? Because they are also kind of answerable to other investors, and they're also doing a job, right? But more often than not, I sometimes see term sheets and shareholder agreements and SSAs that are sometimes not entrepreneur friendly, and kind of entrepreneurs just take them because they really need the money, right? And I think speaking about peace of mind, I think sometimes entrepreneurs forget that they sign up for things that they're probably not sure that they can deliver, and they're like, oh, we'll kind of deal with it then. but that's not how to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Do not be penny wise, pound foolish. Right? Pay for that lawyer if you need to. Pay for that advisor if then you have to. But get it right. Get it checked.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't understand it, get proper counsel. Right? And yes, I think today we are so lucky that capital has been democratized in such a beautiful way. Right? Today there's debt, there's equity, there are all forms of securities available for founders today, right? But be careful on kind of what you're signing up for, right? You're signing up for 5-6 years of marriage with these individuals who could be great, but also if you're not able to deliver it, it can kind of create a lot of
Backfire,
issues. And I think there's a lot of literature output out there. Simple Google search will make you understand a lot of terms out there, right? Very simple kind of terms, right? Right, how now ROFOs work and how ROFers work and kind of all aspects of exit terms and everything, right? And I think have a strong understanding of that before getting into bed, I think, with anyone you're going to be spending the next 7 to 10 years with from an investment point of view.
Interesting. Nice. So since this is a finance podcast and I'm curious to know, how do you guys manage your own personal finances?
So we obviously, I think, do take support from, I think, wealth managers across the board, right? But I think we've been very disciplined, I would say, investors. Very kind of, we don't try timing the market.
Yeah.
We just keep the SIPs going on, right? Whether it's in PMS funds or mutual funds or direct equity. We do, by the way, almost 98% equity, right? I think the age that we are in, it makes sense, almost little sense not to do. We do a little bit of gold, right? But I think almost no debt. And I think we are active investors in the market. We do some funds which are Indian funds which are exposed to Western equities as well to get some kind of, I would say, diversification. But within, I think, Indian equities try to diversify as well. We have a bunch of stuff kind of across industries, across kind of small cap, mid cap, large cap, and try to kind of, I think my mantra is very simple, right? I think just invest it and don't look at it. Right? I think let it compound. I think that's the most powerful
But that
tool.
is the best mantra there is to have if you're a long-term investor.
That's the most powerful tool. We invest for our kids as well. Our kids are a little more than a year, right? And they're
I think doing that is very important.
yeah, they had kind of our goal was that actually that through kind of some of these basic investments, we can just fund the compounding journey, fund the education, right? Which obviously is a stressful point as parents, right? Because we're like, we want to give the same life to our kids that kind of our parents gave us or kind of that we earn for ourselves. Right. So not very complicated the investment journey. Right. I think equities, don't try to time the market, diversify. Again, know the risk reward. It's super important. Right. Some of these instruments are risky, but at the same time, I think over a long period of time, data tells us that it averages out. And as long as it gives basic alpha, kind of gives us the kind of what the benchmarks give us, I think we are fine. We're not kind of looking to get some crazy venture capital type returns. We're not, and we don't want to play that game at all.
Yeah, I think it's best not to chase those kind of returns because I don't think it's sustainable in the long run.
Exactly.
I'd much rather be happy with like a 15-17% compounded return for the rest of my life than just get like 5 years of some mad return.
Yeah, no, I think with markets getting even more efficient, right? I think the world that we live in, I think trying to get these sustainable returns is going to get even more difficult, right? I think, and that's why you see a share of passive kind of funds having which are getting even more and more kind of, you guys are the experts here. You guys do it.
Absolutely. So we're moving towards the Western world in that sense, and that more and more people
absolutely. The Vanguards of the world. Vanguard did it, right?
Yeah, they did it, and they're still doing it. And if you talk to somebody,
a friend of mine, actually, Pratik Oswal, who's leading it at Motilal Oswal, the passive funds, and his wife was with me at Stanford. And I think his biggest mantra when he came back, right, was like, I just want to push the focus towards these kind of passive funds. And I think today I talk to so many of our friends who are kind of either working for their own family offices, right? But a lot of them, I think, do not kind of do these large cap funds anymore, right? I think you're just putting them primarily like in large cap kind of index funds.
Because that's why pay that fee,
the
when
cost
you
is
can
so much
just
cheaper.
sort of save on that 1.5% fee by just sort of putting it in an index fund. Why not? It's the easiest place to start. Like we're in this journey since the past 3.5 years, and for us, the kind of people that we talk to are people who are just about to start their investment journey. They're people who've never really made an investment in their life before. And index funds can be a great starting point because they're basically no-brainers. You'll do just as well or just as badly as the market, and then you don't have anybody else to point fingers at.
Absolutely.
No, definitely. Index funds are doing better, and like you said, the markets are becoming more and more efficient. And that's when that sort of gap that you'll see between an actively managed fund and a passive fund is definitely going to like reduce.
Yeah.
So yeah, index funds are pretty good. We love them.
No,
Also,
so we
I
do.
think it's like as a couple, we just don't want to make risky investments
Yeah.
because our eggs are in the same basket anyways.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
that
think
makes
it's
sense.
also
Yeah.
a decision as a
I
couple.
never thought about it like that, yeah.
So we invest
We stay
all
away from
together, and
risks,
we've kind of
yeah.
just like try to create the pool amongst us on
Yeah.
kind of how we can kind of create like a holistic, diversified portfolio.
Sure. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
So, since both of you all are entrepreneurs, and you all have twins, what is one piece of advice that you would give as entrepreneurs to your kids?
As entrepreneurs to kids.
So I think my biggest learning actually after being a father towards my kind of entrepreneurial journey has been, I think, the theme of selflessness. That I think becoming a parent kind of makes you realize that your role is in its core is being selfless.
Yeah.
Right? Often your child doesn't understand the good that you're doing for the child, right? They'll probably throw a tantrum, right? But yet the unconditional love just remains, right? Because you're like, he's my child and she's my child, and you know, she probably doesn't understand, but it's okay, I love her either way. So I think entrepreneurship is no different. I think the journey that you are, often that you put in all the efforts and kind of throw things at the brand and things don't work, but you're just like,
It's okay.
exactly, right? But I think the most cliched stuff, right? But I think from what I've learned, what I would tell my kids is, I think enjoy it. Right? It took me a lot of time to reach entrepreneurship, right? Like unlike Vanshika who had that clarity of thought, I did a lot of stuff for like external validation, right? I think I was an investor, yes, very high paying job, and I think it paid a lot of the bills and the fun stuff, but it's not something that I enjoyed doing, right? I think it was, I was just not happy.
Yeah.
But I was doing it because the coolest and the hardest job to get out of business school.
Yeah.
Right? And I proudly got it, but I was never happy. So I would say kind of sometimes it's okay to kind of let the vanity go to kind of to fulfill kind of what your inner calling is. And I think hopefully I found that in entrepreneurship. I love that. I love what I'm doing with Kanya. Right? So yeah, I think that's what I would say. That's what I would say.
And I think of course that, but I think to add to that would be the importance of financial freedom from day one.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very important for both a boy and a girl, but I think especially for women.
Yeah.
And I think it starts before you get married, not after.
Yeah.
It could always start after, but I think it becomes tougher.
Yeah.
I think to start it before you get into a marriage is super important, and I think to always be ready for that.
Yeah.
Never take it for granted that you're just going to have everything. You have to earn it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Couldn't agree anymore. Super. This was such an amazing chat, and thank you for doing this with us, Abhijeet and Vanshika.
Thank you so much for having
you
us.
so
I think it was a real pleasure. We've been following FinCocktail, Siley and Niyati from I think almost day one.
Yeah.
And big fans of the content. I personally have learned a lot, and I know many friends who've learned a lot from their content. So keep doing what you're doing. Please like, share and comment on this episode and their page. Congratulations guys, and thank you so much for having us.
Yay.
Thank you.